All set.
Thanks, Wyatt.
Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now, and I'm just going to navigate back into that same instructional guides folder. And actually, for this exercise, just so we have sort of a clean slate, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new ArcGIS Pro document and save it in that exercises folder. I generally find that it's nice to just save a document and for each stage of the project. So I've had a running ArcGIS Pro document open for my inundation, my land cover, my sediment size, and my large wood debris.
Yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and go to the data drive and find my instructional guides folder.
So this one is called, what is this one called again?
This project?
Yeah, that we should be naming it.
Oh, good question. I'm just going to name it land cover classification.
Okay, perfect.
Actually, I might put it exercise, land cover classification exercise, so that we know it's not like
The real one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, I'll go ahead and save that. And then like yesterday, we'll just need to add all of our data that we need to start out with. So.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get to the right folder.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to open as well.
Okay.
Wyatt, I was going to ask you, I sent an email, but when you were talking about your data drive folder yesterday, and I was like taking forever to navigate to the various folders where I have things stored.
Yeah.
I'd love to just hear your thoughts at some point on best practices for managing spatial data. Like I have things in a bunch of different places.
Yeah, we can definitely chat about that. Yeah, do you want to we could set up a time for me, just I can share my screen with you. We can go over usually how I go about storing data. I work with another analyst who supervises me, Gabe Vellante, who has some really awesome examples of neat folder storage that we can actually
yeah,
so
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
What are we adding right now? What do you want us to add to our map?
So I'm going to go into my data and just navigate back to my exercise data here. The first thing we want to add is still our ortho imagery.
Sample, gotcha, okay.
And secondly, after that loads, we want to go ahead and add a few other layers here. So we want to add our phase 1 REM elevation bands. That's an elevation band layer from the relative elevation model. And we also want to add phase 1 water example.tif. And that will actually be it for now.
Okay.
And there should actually be a CHM layer as well. It doesn't look like I have in that folder. Do you see a CH?
Oh, I do. Phase 1 lighter CHM.tif.
Okay, good. I'm just going to transfer that over to my map real quick.
Okay, so we should add it.
Yes. And that is a canopy height model.
That was another thing in my email. just to make sure that I get all of the, whatever files you used for analysis that were not the imagery that Matt delivered to you guys.
Oh, you'd like to have all
address
that extra stuff as well?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to
Just
know.
so that, well, and we can figure out what that is, but you know, I know that canopy height model was from the 2017 LiDAR and it was from the Forest Service, and ideally we'll have Cari, I can't remember the status of new LiDAR. We'll come back to that at some point. But
I'm supposed to
You can
contact
also-
Mark in October.
Yeah, I mean, most of that data is also like, the original data also exists in other locations, so maybe it would be best if I could point you just to those locations.
sure. Yep,
we
that would be
can
fine
figure
too.
So, okay.
Spilling coffee.
And I'm just going to take one moment to paste that data into my instructional guide folder. Okay, there we go. So I'm adding a phase 1 LiDAR CHM layer. Okay. And so that should be all the data we need. We have our orthoimagery, we have a canopy height model, we have a water raster, and we have REM elevation bands. And really the big objectives of this exercise is we're just going to try to build on our segmentation and classification knowledge. And we're also going to build on our previous inundation classification that we made last time. And we'll just also be making a classification with multiple classes instead of just one. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to make a water mask in our orthoimagery. And I'll kind of explain what that means, but this classification will basically be different than the last one due to the fact that we already have water area pre-classified. And we actually want to remove water area from our orthoimagery so that we aren't reclassifying that area. We can just remove that data and we will be able to have it available, or we will just be able to make it unavailable to ArcGIS Pro so that it won't worry about it when it's making a new classification. So let's go ahead and just first see what that will look like. So go ahead and uncheck visibility on the LiDAR CHM and the phase 1 REM elevation bands. And it looks like I'm having some visibility issues with my orthoimagery sample. I don't know if that's happening for you all as well.
Oh, did you uncheck? You unchecked the elevation bands too.
I did, yes.
My ortho shows fine. It almost looks like you have a transparency on yours.
Yeah, it does. I think that might be.
That's weird. Oh,
We can go ahead and move forward though. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
your water example is still checked.
It is. Oh, there we go. Huh.
Oh, but that's still weird because when my water is checked, it only shows the black on the water.
And it should for me as well. So that's a mystery, but
We're not going to worry about it.
basically we're just examining here and seeing that generally we don't have a perfect classification right now, but we're going to superimpose it on our orthoimagery. So the first thing we want to do here is actually reclassify our water raster. So we're going to go into our geoprocessing tool. And in our search bar, we're going to find the reclassify option.
Sorry, I go to class. Do I go to classification?
Oh, no.
No, I have, oh, it's still there. Okay, yeah, it's still there at the bottom of that screen.
Right.
It looks like. Okay, and I'm in the search.
You want to make sure it's in your geoprocessing toolbox and that it's the spatial analyst version of reclassify instead of 3D analyst. There are two versions, and you just want to make sure it has the correct. It's from the correct toolbox. So
wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm still trying to get to the right reclassify. It's the spatial analyst one you said?
Yeah. So there should be a 3D analyst and a spatial analyst version of reclassify.
And you said the reason we're doing this is we're going to clip the water out of our ortho image, basically.
Right. So in this step, we're actually going to sort of reverse the extent of our water. It's going to make a lot of sense once we actually do it. But basically, there's a bunch of tools that we're going to use later that extract data from overlapping rasters. And right now, our water classification is overlapping the wrong area. And we're going to fix that real quick. So let's go ahead and put our water example inside our reclassify input raster. And then under reclassification, you'll see a table with a start column, end column, new column. And you'll just want to select unique under, there'll be two options, unique and classify. And you'll just want to select the unique option so that it gives you some values in your table. And so you can see that we have two values from the original raster. We have a 0 value and a no data value. And in the right column, in the new column, you'll be able to reclassify those values as we see fit. So we want to make our 0 column switch with our no data column. So in the new column, in the top row, you'll want to just go ahead and type in all caps, no data, exactly like you see in the bottom row. And then for no data, you'll actually want to see here. For no data, you'll actually want to reclassify as 0. So you're just switching these rows. And that's it for your reclassification. You'll just want to name your reclassification something memorable. I named mine reclassified water. And you go ahead and hit run, and you should see a new raster come up shortly. So your screen should look a lot like mine now. If you uncheck your phase 1 water example TIFF and just show reclassified water, you'll see that you basically reversed your extent of your water raster, and that will help us pull out the actual land data. But what we've done now is just basically made a land classification using the opposite of our water classification. And that's one of our masks that we'll be making. We'll be making several what's called masks in this exercise, just rasters overlaying certain extents that we've already classified. And we're going to be doing a lot of masking on our ortho imagery. So now we're going to go ahead and leave this mask alone for now. And we're going to move on and work with our canopy height model to create a CHM mask. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck visibility on my reclassified water. And I'm going to check visibility on my phase 1 LiDAR CHM layer. So again, we're going to use that same reclassify tool. It's actually in my recents right here. So I'll go ahead and just select it. And I will, this time I'll feed my reclassify tool, my CHM layer. So phase 1 LiDAR CHM. This time, under my reclassification table, I'll want to go ahead and hit classify. It will ask you how many classes that you want to create here. And I just want to create 2 classes. So I'll tell it just to create 2 classes, hit OK. And it will give me an auto-generated classification in the classification table. And we're going to change those auto-generated values. So you see here we have 3 start values and 3 end values. 1 for the first class, 1 for the second class, and 1 for just no data. And here we're going to reclassify this canopy height model using a threshold. And just sort of as a preamble, I made this threshold based on a bunch of trial and error and examining elevations of trees and shrubs to sort of find a middle ground between, again, like lots of misclassified pixels that are just sort of tiny errors in the LiDAR CHM, and I tried to get as many trees and shrubs included as possible without lots of commission errors. So
wait, so Wyatt, were you literally just like using your identify tool? I don't actually know if that even exists, to select pixels and like looking at the elevations. And
I did a lot of that, and I also did a couple of tables as well.
okay.
I did a couple of scatter plots where I looked at pixels that I identified as land, and then pixels that I identified as trees and shrubs. And there are some scatter plot tools in ArcGIS Pro that we might not have time to go into right now, but it is possible to make plots of pixel values at selected locations.
Got
and
it.
then get where they sort of break off.
Okay.
Is that like 3D analyst? You can do that. Is that kind of one of the ways you do that?
I forget if I use 3D analyst actually,
Okay.
but that is definitely one way, for sure.
Okay.
So that is one method that I used. And so we're going to leave our start values alone pretty much always in our reclassify tool.
Wyatt, I have different start values than you do.
Okay.
When I selected classify, the dialog box looked different than yours. I could still select 2 classes, but it gave me a color ramp.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that first start value is the same. The second one, I could just copy yours, but then I wouldn't, I don't know why it did that. Mine is 5.798 something.
Are you in the CHM, Lauren?
Yeah.
CHM displayed differently than mine.
No, the CHM displays the same.
Okay.
It was just that classify. When I selected classify, it wasn't just a simple, like yours just had the value. Mine had this whole additional part to it with color ramp. I don't actually even know what version I'm running here, but I don't know why that is.
Okay. That's
In any case, it's just this, instead of your 12, and you have that 12 twice, I have 5.79, but then I also have the 25. So total mystery.
It's possible that it just I don't know what's going on there, honestly, but let's actually just go through this step and it might be okay.
Okay.
So I said we're not going to change our start values. I was lying there. That was a misspeaking. So we're actually going to change our first start value to 0.
Great.
And that should probably fix those problems anyway that you are having. And we're going to change the first end value to 1.
Great.
And the second start value will be 1 again. And that end value, whatever end value is the default, will stay the same. That's just the top of that's just the highest elevation in our distribution. Okay, and for our new values for the first row, we're going to leave this second new value at 1. And we're going to set this second new value at no data. And let me just check to make sure I'm reflecting everything that I've done in my instructional guide, because this part is actually a little bit specific. Okay, so we've set our first start value to 0 and value to 1. The first new value to 0. Okay, I actually made one mistake here again. We want to set this second new value to a 0 for reasons that will become clear later on. There's a lot of downstream effects that we'll run into later with this classification.
Okay, so the first new value is 0 and the second new value is no data.
Yes.
And these are actual, what the pixel values are. So 0 means for the pixel value, it's 0, or 1 means the pixel value is 1.
That'll be the new pixel value, right?
These are referring to pixel values. Okay.
Yeah, and so it'll make more sense once we actually run it. And so if everyone's screen reflects mine now, let's go ahead and just change the name to reclassified CHM, and just save it in your geodatabase like normal. And let's go ahead and run the reclassify tool. And Lauren, let me know if your output looks different than mine. It should look very similar.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same, and I think we fixed well, except
okay.
the color's different.
That's fine.
But Wyatt, I don't know if this is a good time to mention this, but in the reclassified water, the create water mask, in the instructional guide, there was another step that we didn't do, which was navigate to our environments tab and change our output extent to match our 7-band ortho imagery. So I don't know if that matters.
Okay. It shouldn't matter with this exercise.
Okay.
It looks like all of our extents still match.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I did skip that step. Thanks for noticing, but it's as long as our classifications are all in the same extent, we should be fine.
Okay.
There was also a snap raster step that I included in the instruction that makes a difference when you're doing the real classification, but doesn't make a humongous difference when you're doing the demonstration.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and so we should have a canopy height mask now as well. And this mask basically leaves as no data all areas that are identified as canopy. And you can see that generally that coincides with visible canopy in the height model. Okay, and so now that we have our masks, let's go ahead and apply those masks to our orthoimagery. So to do that, we're going to use the extract by mask tool. And that's in our geoprocessing toolbox. So in our search bar, go ahead and type extract by mask. It should be the first option, and it should be part of your spatial analyst tool. You'll see it in the parentheses. And for your input raster and extract by mask, you will be selecting your 7-band orthoimagery. So the okay. It looks like I've actually skipped a step here. So we actually want to use the orthoimagery that we've created in our inundation classification exercise. So I'm going to go ahead and find out where I saved that. And I might actually, if you can find that in your old geodatabase, in your geodatabase that you created yesterday, the fastest way to find the orthoimagery.
Is it the classified inundation area we're looking for, or the composite?
So we're actually looking for the composite.
So the phase 1 orthoimagery composite.
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize. That is one step that I did not think of. This instructional guide goes off of the end step from last exercise. So I'm just going to find my old map, my inundation metrics exercise, just going to my geodatabase and find my phase 1 orthoimagery composite. Oh, and here's another thing that I had not considered. I actually cut this down a small amount just to decrease processing time, but that should actually be we'll just go ahead and move forward with a smaller area. Were you guys able to find the orthoimagery composite? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So now we can go ahead and move on to this next step. So let's go ahead and find our extract by mask tool. Input our phase 1 orthoimagery composite. And for our input feature mask data, let's go ahead and let me see, which one did I want to use first? First, let's go ahead and extract our water extent. So for our under input raster or feature mask data, let's go ahead and select our, let's see, go ahead and select our water mask. So that would be reclassified water for us. And let's go ahead and name this output. Phase 1, ortho imagery, water extracted, to remind us that we've extracted our water layer. And let's go ahead and move into our environments tab now. So this is the first time that we're using the environments tab, but it's just right next to the parameters tab in the top of our tool. And we just want to change one parameter here. Under the raster analysis options, we want to change our cell size. And we want to just make sure that the cell size of our output raster is the same as our phase 1 ortho imagery composite. We just want to make sure that we have matching cell sizes that are coming out of the tool. After we change cell size, we should be okay to run the tool. And we can see what results from that.
So you said it's the same size as the composite, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then go back and then hit run?
Yeah,
okay.
That should be the last thing you need to do before you run.
Okay. I've done some of this masking and extract by mask in ArcMap under the geoprocessing tools. So,
is it a lot different in ArcMap to use that tool?
I mean, yeah, it looks, the platform looks a little different, but the idea of it all seems similar.
Yeah, that's kind of what I experienced too. It's similar. It's just similar but different. So we should see the same image displayed, and that's because we have our phase 1 ortho imagery composite still visible. So let's toggle visibility, and we can see that we've extracted the water area from our ortho imagery. I'll actually uncheck everything below this image so that we can really see the result. So it should just be a blank space in all areas that are classified as water. And the next thing that we want to do here is run extract by mask one more time. So let's go ahead and navigate back to the extract by mask tool. You'll want to navigate away from the tool and navigate back to it so that the defaults are reset and we don't have any leftover parameters that we don't expect or want. For our input raster, now we're going to use phase 1 ortho imagery water extracted. And for our featured mask, we're going to want to remember which of our layers is our CHM mask. And that will just be our reclassified CHM. Let's go ahead and name our output. Let me just remind myself what I named it in my instructional guide so that we can be on the same page. Okay. Let's go ahead and rename our output phase 1 ortho imagery land cover subset. And before we run, we're going to want to go into the environments tab one more time because our CHM actually does have a different spatial resolution than our ortho imagery. So we're just going to want to change that cell size again to the ortho imagery composite or the ortho imagery water extracted. Honestly, both are fine. Since the ortho imagery water extracted was the last step in my flow, I'm going to go with that. So change the cell size to the phase 1 ortho imagery water extracted, and let's run the tool and see what we see what we get as an output.
And just to make sure I got that right, it was called the phase 1 ortho land cover subset. Did you say subset? Okay.
And that's really just to make sure that we're all using the same imagery, because I realize that referencing a lot of specific layer names.
Yeah.
And you should see that you've subset your data again by your canopy height model layer, and that you've taken away a lot of chunks of your data.
I must have done something wrong.
So what does your data look like?
It's just the water still.
Try uncheck. Have you unchecked the visibility on the water?
Okay. Nope. Thank you.
Awesome. That's always a problem, because it's the exact same spatial resolution. It's on the same grid, so it's just
Confusing.
It's going to look exactly the same until you uncheck that layer.
Hey, just a quick Arc Pro thing. Where is like zoom to layer and all of that?
Sure.
Oh, there, it's still there. Okay, I see it.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I have a quick question we can
Yeah.
save for another time if we want to. But basically, I mean, you ended up using all of the bands of imagery, including the thermal band, in your analyses, which means that in the future, to repeat these analyses, we need to collect the same bands of imagery.
Yes.
Okay. Just thinking through things.
There's definitely a long answer too, but short, I used all the bands, and I didn't use the red edge band if that ever comes up, but
Right.
they
Okay.
were all useful. Like, all those 6 bands were very useful information.
But you didn't use the red edge for anything at all.
No. Near infrared and red edge are I shouldn't say they're similar, but they're semi-similar to one another. They're close to one another in bandwidth. Okay. They're useful for different things. So it could be that band will still be useful for you, and it even could be that just UAS sensor that you were using, it could be that was just the band that it was programmed and designed to collect. So
right. Okay.
There might be limited choice in what you have for acquisitions. That's often an issue that I run into as well. Sometimes there are just 4 bands in the imagery, and that's what we have and what was collected. So
right. Okay. Okay. I'll think about that a little bit more. Thank you.
Yes, that was the long answer. Question. We can move on. So now we're going to go ahead and run a segmentation once again. So we're going to try to run a segmentation for herbaceous cover. And here you can actually notice a limitation of this classification. So you can see that there are still some short shrubs mixed in with herbaceous cover. And that is just really one of the biggest limitations that we ran into. It's really hard to distinguish those in the elevation bands, even with a high quality canopy height model. And they're also almost interchangeable when you're looking at spectral bands. So we will actually be, unfortunately, we're going to be classifying those as herbaceous cover, and that will be part of the error in the classification.
And Wyatt, it cut out just a little when you were saying the first part. What is going to be classified, unfortunately, as herbaceous?
Some of the shorter shrubs.
Okay.
The ones we can still see.
Anything that falls under a foot in the canopy height model.
Okay. Okay.
What was our threshold height?
It was a foot.
A foot? Not a meter?
I think that the CHM is in feet. I think that's the vertical. I believe that's the vertical extent for the pixels.
Okay.
That'd be a good thing
Not
to
all
check.
the pixels, the pixels on the LiDAR are all in meters, right? But on the CHM, they're in feet?
I think it's probably meters.
Okay.
Because that makes sense when we were talking about the CHM before and that maximum value being 25. I'm pretty sure we have trees that are taller than 25 feet, but it would make sense to me that we would have trees that were about 70 feet tall, which would be about 25 meters.
Okay.
Which
That's good.
actually would make, well, and I don't know, but it would make sense too with the shrubs that we can see. I think just again, and this is like site knowledge, but having been out there, I think some of these, like in the center right of your screen, or sort of like center left, yeah, down. Those, and then further down here, yep, those, and then over on the right, I think those guys are probably, it makes sense to me that they would be
That would be under a meter.
under a meter, but not under a foot.
Okay.
So
That's-
Are
That's
we
good.
up in the delta, like in the treed area below the upper delta?
we are, we're between monitoring wells 9 and 10.
Yeah, that's what I was, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
Apologies. So
No worries.
that was yeah, I might have misremembered, or maybe maybe it was.
I'm not certain. We'd have to, I don't know how we figure that out, but
Yeah,
Well,
we
do
can.
we have that written in the instructional guide too? Like what our thresholds are, so we remember when we're looking at the data?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Sweet, okay.
I might need to.
but
I'll need to check back on the metadata for the CHM and just make sure I have the right. I have the
okay.
right recorded. But it probably wouldn't change what I decided on for the threshold.
Okay.
So it looks like we're good to go. That being kind of laid out. So we're going to go ahead and just select our land cover subset here.
One quick question too.
Yeah.
On the canopy height model, is that something you made or something we gave you?
It's something you gave me. So that was on the Forest Service T drive.
Okay. It is possible that is feet because they do
I feel like
things.
I feel like I might have remembered that as feet, but I mean, if your site knowledge is telling you that it's meters, we'll have to look back
I could
and check
totally be wrong.
We can check on that later, but it doesn't matter much for this.
Okay.
But it just matters for our interpretation of the data, right? Okay, so you'll check that. Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay. So let's go ahead and run the segmentation. So we're going to go back to imagery and classification tools, which we'll be a little bit more familiar with now. And for this particular segmentation, we're actually going to leave the phase 1 ortho imagery as true color instead of using different bands, because that turned out to be a very good indicator of at least visible herbaceous cover. And we're actually as well going to, for this point in the exercise, leave the defaults, because it will not change the segmentation enough to really influence the exercise results. So we're going to just leave the defaults for spectral detail, spatial detail, and for minimum segment size and pixels, let's go ahead and make the segment size 500 pixels. And that's just to decrease processing time. It's not necessarily the best I haven't like found the optimal number of pixels. I just don't want us to be dealing with 20 pixel wide segments. And now let's just go ahead and title our output. I need to paste this in from my Word document. Phase 1 herbaceous cover segmentation. So if your segmentation screen looks similar to mine, go ahead and run, and that should take a few minutes, most likely. So if you want to take a break or get a snack or something, it'd be good time.
I'll take a quick break.
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
Still running. Oh, wait, no, it says it's completed. I see it.
Yeah, mine's up too.
Okay, great. Well, that's excellent. I just got a text from someone who was he'd been sort of like going through the guides as well, and she she said, my classifications failed. I don't know what happened. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
well, it's working for us. So going.
Sorry.
We might have jinxed it for her. So I guess now we can go ahead and run another classification. So like before, we will be taking samples of herbaceous cover and shrub cover and labeling them both as herbaceous because they're such similar classes that they really don't have any spectral differences, at least that I could suss out. And so we'll be lumping them into an herbaceous category. And so we'll be making two types of samples here. So let's go ahead and move into our training samples manager. Let's go ahead and create a new schema. So you should have just a blank new schema and go ahead and add a new class. And we'll label this class herbaceous. I'm going to go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember how to create a new. I've got how to create a new class again.
Oh, sure.
I got the new schema.
Okay, it's just the plus sign in the green at the top.
Okay, I must have done something. Oh wait. Okay, wait. There's a little down arrow. Okay.
And
yep.
sometimes you do need to select the new schema before you can add to it.
I think I messed up. Yeah. Okay, so cancel. Let's try that again. So select new schema and then hit the plus. Okay. All right, got it.
Okay.
And then.
Yeah, let's go ahead and name it herbaceous. This first class. We'll go ahead and assign the value of 1. And I'm just going to give herbaceous cover a very visible color that will stand out against green. I'm going to make it bright pink. And let's go ahead and notice that we've again we're selecting herbaceous now. And just for demonstration, if I create a new class after selecting herbaceous, don't actually do this. I'll just give it a name and a value again. That will actually create a subclass under herbaceous. Mm-hmm. And that's why we've been selecting. I'll just remove that. That's why we need to go ahead and select this top class here before we create a new one.
Wyatt, what value did you put for herbaceous?
I put 1 for herbaceous.
Okay. Thanks.
And then I will make a bear class and give that a value of 2. I'm going to make my bear class bright green so that I can see it against the background. And now I'm going to go ahead and select my segment picker tool. And I'm going to set up my herbaceous cover segmentation, make sure it's still selected, but I'm just going to turn off the visibility so that I can see sort of what I'm working with before I start sampling. And often I will toggle in between the segmentation and the regular ortho image. And here, when you're doing the segment picking, it's very useful to just use your scroll wheel. So if you hold down if you just press straight down on your scroll wheel, it will allow you to pan. And then you can also use it for zoom. And so that's just, instead of switching between your Explorer tool and your segment picker, this might be an easier way to do it. And
so are you picking herbaceous right now?
Yes, thank you. let's delete those. So I'm going to go ahead and pick some herbaceous samples.
So we need to have herbaceous highlighted in our thing and then go.
Yes.
And so we're just trying to look for herbaceous vegetation right now.
Yes.
Or those shrubs that are under a foot or a meter or whatever they are, because they're going to be part of that.
Exactly. And I'm going to do a relatively quick job of this and just select a large number of samples for demonstration.
So do we again want to be cautious of like not picking things that look like maybe bare grounds because we don't want to train it to have errors of commission?
And that's one of the reasons that you saw lots of bare ground that was actually, or lots of herbaceous cover that you knew was herbaceous, but was classified as bare ground. Because there's not really a way to get around. There's not really a way to train the classifier to recognize that hidden sort of herbaceous cover, at least with spectral data that we have.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to bare ground now and find some samples. Don't have much to work with here.
Is there a reason why? Okay, there it goes. It's weird. Sometimes it won't, it'll select it on the screen, but it won't leave it there. And then I'll go to the next thing and click and it won't make a pink poly for some reason, but I got it to eventually do it.
It could be that sometimes you're not zoomed in far enough.
Ah, okay. I did start playing with the zoom. That could have been it.
It will select areas that are at their sort of display level, and it will sort of change the display based on your zoom. And
okay.
So sometimes it will just select a large clump of segments.
Yeah, because I just did that again for the bear. I had it out pretty big and it wouldn't select it, but that made sense. So like, yes. So from the bear, are you also putting like logs?
I am. Stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
I would rather have them be classified as bare ground than be classified as herbaceous. And that might be, and that was a judgment that I made, sort of a judgment call in the process of doing this, because they have a very similar spectral signature to bare ground. And so one, they would misrepresent herbaceous cover to the classifier, and two, I thought that was a little bit more representative of what we wanted to map anyway. Okay, so I've selected a fair amount of samples, and again, it's not going to be perfect here, but I will go ahead and save my samples to my geodatabase.
So that's just at the top of, it's under the training samples manager. It's that little save.
It's the
button.
It's the save button. It's the one below.
Oh, sorry. Yep, got it.
And then I'll just go into databases, like my land cover classification database, and name these.
Wait, how did you get it to give you that screen? Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I went to the save button.
To the what button? Sorry, it's covered up. Oh, that's my thing that popped up. That's what happened. I thought that was your screen.
Yeah, it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, it like moved to my other screen, so that's why I didn't see it. Okay, so sorry, what were you calling this again?
I called it herbaceous samples.
And I should probably put that in a different folder, I'm guessing.
I put it right in my geodatabase. So
Okay.
I navigated to my, it's easy to find. Another good thing about ArcPro is you can go straight to your databases folder under projects, and it will show you your default geodatabase.
Okay, and you named it herbaceous samples. Okay.
Okay. So once you've saved your herbaceous samples, this is actually probably a good time to save your map as well.
Okay.
So we don't lose any progress.
And when you save the map, you mean go save the project, like up at the top, the save button up there. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good catch. Save the entire project.
Okay.
And now we can go ahead and move on to our random forest classification. So again, we'll be selecting our phase 1 orthoimagery land cover subset. In our table of contents, we'll be moving over to classification tools and selecting classify. I'm going to select random trees and go to the browse folder to the right of my training samples text box. And I'll again just go into databases and select herbaceous samples. For now, I'm going to leave maximum number of trees, tree depth, and number of samples as the default setting. Because
1 sec, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to the right folder still.
And I had to refresh mine, Cari, for those herbaceous samples to show up.
that's a good point.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if that helps too. And let's see if refresh helps. There it is. Okay, got herbaceous samples in there. Okay.
Okay, great. And let's just ignore the tree depth and number of samples for now, just because we're just doing the demonstration. I have the parameters recorded, and you can easily look them up if you want to go a little deeper. I'll go ahead and select herbaceous cover segmentation for my segmented image. I'll go ahead and check the standard deviation box under segment attributes. And then let's name our output classified data set. And I'm going to name my data set phase 1 herbaceous cover classification. For my ECD file, since we might as well at least know where to, we might as well at least name it with the same name. So let's just name our ECD file phase 1 herbaceous cover classification .ecd, just in its default path. That way, if we ever need it, we can find it. So if your screen looks like mine, then we should be able to go ahead and run, and we'll see what comes out.
1 second, I'm just trying to remember. I want to just look and see what is the segmentation again. Okay, so that's when we had it put things in its own little blocks of what things are by pixel size. That was its segment. And then we went and trained it. And now we're turning those trained things into new segments.
Right.
Okay.
So the workflow with your object-based classification is always, you're always going to segment first, sort of chop the image up into segments.
Okay.
Then you're going to use the information from those segments to create samples, and then you're going to use those samples and feed them into a classifier, which is
Yeah.
in forest, and then you'll be able to create your classification.
So in general, like exactly what we're doing here, we could do theoretically with large wood if it were to work. I mean, it didn't work when we tried, we digitized, but this idea is.
Yeah, absolutely. The only problem is that you can find areas of large wood where it is classified correctly, definitely. But I also found a lot of areas where it misses large woody debris, and there's also a lot of large woody debris that's laying on, for example, bare ground, where they just have both very bright spectral signatures, and it just missed a lot of wood. But it might be possible if you have, in the future, if you have other methods or better data, maybe if you had better better elevation data, or like.
Well, I was thinking if we're on a
methodologies popping up, but
yeah, I was thinking if we were on another type of project, you know, where we didn't disturb the ground and the wood shows up spectrally really different from the vegetation underneath it, that may be a time where that is useful.
Definitely.
Or like,
okay.
you know, so South Fork Mackenzie and Wyatt, I don't think you're working with them on this, because I think this is what Matt Barker was doing, but you know, most of their wood, like they don't really have channels still, to my knowledge, and most of their wood is in the water, and so it's really visible. So they used, I know that they used eCognition, and they used an automated classification for wood, but it's also a really, really different, like what the wood is against is completely different. It's water. Have you been out there recently, Cari?
Not since the fires.
Yeah, but they don't really have channels, right? It's basically like water and wood and no land.
There is some islands. They definitely have islands,
Okay.
but it is pretty much wall to wall water. Yeah.
Yep.
They just have a lot more water than us.
Yeah. Yeah, like 2 orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Okay, thank you.
So we should have a classification now, and this classification for this demonstration is going to look a little bit. It's going to look strange. There's definitely going to be some errors because of our sampling technique. However, let's just go ahead and sort of compare. We can toggle between, and we can also go to the appearance tab and use our swipe button to compare these two.
Oh, I love that that's just right there.
Yeah.
Where's the, oh, and it says what it is.
It's super.
Wait, which one's the swipe tab? Sorry, I'm trying to, oh, there it is. There's the swipe.
There's also the flicker button, but I really don't use that very much. And you can see it does a decent job. There are areas where it does have some errors. But
Yeah.
we see visible, and you probably do see a lot more errors than I do because of your more intimate site knowledge. You'll notice that that shadows are classified as bare. There's a lot of areas that are apparent bare ground that are likely herbaceous cover. But for our demonstration, let's move forward and pretend that we've done lots of iterations of sampling. Again,
so each time you were to make another sample, you would just go in there and go back to, I forgot where we were, under analysis, I think. No.
Yeah, I would reselect the like herbaceous cover segmentation and then just go right back to imagery, training samples manager.
Yeah.
Since
And
I'm in
just
the
make a
same
new one.
project, it actually loads my old samples, so I can just keep on building that sample set.
Oh, so you can't do a fresh one.
You can. You would just need to.
Because you don't, do
You
you,
might
you
need to
save it?
restart your
don't-
project, or you might need to either restart your project or just remove all these samples and save it as a
Okay.
name.
Okay,
It will automatically reload everything for you if you're
Okay.
in the same sort of open project that you were when you started.
yeah, okay.
So we're not going to do that right now. We'll just move forward with what we have. So now we can go ahead and combine these classifications. So we're going to go ahead and use the reclassify tool quite a bit here. So let's go to geoprocessing and go back to our reclassify tool. For our input raster, let's go ahead and find our reclassified CHN layer. So that would be this reclassified CHM.
Hold on, I have to get back into reclassify real fast.
Sure.
I gotta,
And just as a reminder, this is what our reclassified CHM looks like. And so this is what we're building back into the model.
so wait, I kind of lost track of what we did. So we took the land cover and we went ahead and classified it, but we hadn't yet brought in the,
We classified our herbaceous cover in the areas where trees were not yet classified. So we classified all of the land cover where we did not have water and trees, but we haven't yet added the water layer and the trees layer back into our map.
okay. So now we're adding the trees. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now in so our input raster, I can't see what that says. What does that say?
That's the reclassified CHN.
And that's the one that has the trees in it, you said?
It actually is the one that does not have trees in it. So.
Okay, so we're gonna put the trees back in it?
Right.
Okay.
It'll make sense once we do it. It is a little confusing right now.
Okay.
It will end up making sense. And so let's go ahead and shift our values in our reclassified CHM. So in our reclassified tool, we're going to do another reclassification. So let's go ahead and change the values that are designated as no data. Let's go ahead and change our no data values to 100. So now the new value will be 100. And then let's go ahead and I believe we want to shift these. I believe we just want to keep our 0 value from before. So our old value in our top row is 0, and we want to just assign it a new value of 0 as well. Just keep it the exact same.
Is it important for us to know what these numbers are? Like, I don't get what 100 is. Is that the tree height, 100?
Now it's just an arbitrary number. It will actually it will actually begin to make sense as we add these layers together. But
Okay.
our plan here is to set these rasters to different orders of magnitude. It's a kind of an odd way to go about it, but if you have a raster classified as all the cells are 100, and you have a raster classified as all values of 1000, and another raster that's classified all in the tens place, then when you add them together, you don't lose information. And we'll go through this, and
Okay.
it should make more sense.
Wyatt, it looks like in the guide, your top new value was no data, not one.
In the
In the instruction.
okay.
Are you on
part
part
now.
3?
Process classified layers.
Yeah.
And so I navigate to the reclassify tool. I select my reclassified CHM. I shift my values classified as no data to 100. And that looks like it. And I didn't mention actually that you should not change the top value. But you should just keep
keep the
other values they are.
I think it's 1. In mine it says 1, and in the little screenshot that you have on page 18 in the guide, so there's step 3, and it does say shift values classified as no data to 100, but then in the screenshot it has 0 and no data on the top. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, you are absolutely right. That was my mistake, but I actually think that that screenshot might be just an error. I think I put that in there more as just an example of where you were replacing values.
Okay.
I think those values are meaningless. I apologize. So let's just ignore that image. That is another thing that I will need to change here. And
okay, perfect. So we're going with 0 for the top new value, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's just go ahead and rename our new layer as phase 1 canopy class layer. So phase 1 canopy class layer. And let's also go ahead and change the cell size again, because just in case it's really just as a check. They should all be in the same resolution by now. But we're just going to go ahead and make sure that everything is on the same cell size. So I'm going to go ahead and find phase 1 orthoimagery land cover subset and make sure that's my cell size. And then I should be able to run my tool. And this is what you should see for your canopy layer.
Wyatt, for some reason, my my training samples are showing up on my screen, and I don't know why.
Are you in your classification window? Like,
I'm in my geoprocessing window. If I am in my, when I go to my image classification window, it's all still there.
your training samples?
Oh, can't hear you. Sometimes your mic fades in and out if you're not.
Gotcha. Are your training samples still there?
Yeah.
Like in
Yes.
your classification window? Okay.
Oh, did you delete all of yours?
I didn't delete mine, but try just going up to the top right and
Just
exiting
close.
it. That
Close
should
it.
make all this.
Closing the image classification.
Right.
Oh, interesting. It says the training samples have been modified but have not been saved. That's weird. I did save them.
Well, I don't think it's important to save them at this point.
Okay, so I can just
Them again.
close it.
Yes.
Okay, they went away.
Okay, awesome. So now we're actually going to do something very similar with our water raster. So let's go back into our reclassify tool. And this time our input raster is going to be our water classification. So for us, let's go ahead and.
So a quick question. This is just like if I just hit the back button to get into the reclassify, is there a way to just clear it, like reset it?
I've always found it easier to just hit the back button and then go back into it.
Okay.
The other way to do it would just be to replace everything that you've changed.
Okay.
That's
I was just
actually
worried
fine
I'd forget. Okay.
Sometimes you do want to keep most of your settings and just replace layers.
Okay.
I always find it's a little bit less confusing and a little bit better if I just clear the tool and go back in.
Okay.
That might be more personal preference. And so now we have our phase 1 water example that we want to go ahead and reclassify. I'm actually, now that we have so many layers, I'm going to find it, check to make sure it's the layer that I actually want, and then you can just click and drag as another way to put layers into a tool. I'm not sure if that's an ArcMap functionality, but it's one of the nice things about ArcPro. And I'll go ahead and hit unique values on my reclassification table. And this time, I want to go ahead and keep my no data values as no data and just change my 0 value or whatever value is classified as water to 10. I'll go ahead and change the name here to phase 1 water classification layer. And I want to go ahead and change the cell size again to just that same land cover subset. And you're right, Cari, we could have just stayed in this tool. I have a habit that just saves me from serious mistakes most of the time.
Yeah.
That sometimes makes more work in the meantime.
Yeah.
So you should have your cell size set and your 0 values reclassified to 10s. And just your correct name for your water classification layer. We'll go ahead and run that, and it should output a very similar looking raster. And actually, before we move out of this tool, we want to make one change here. Because if you look back at your canopy class layer, you'll notice that everything in this layer is classified as data. So it's either a 0 or a 100. And with our inundation layer, we've omitted areas. So some areas are still classified as no data. We want to change that and just shift our no data layer to 0. And just leave everything as it is and rerun the tool. It should replace your inundated area layer with an updated layer. So now we should be seeing similar things on our screens. And let's do one more classification. So we want to, again, reclassify our herbaceous cover classification. So let's drag that in and use it as our input raster. We have an herbaceous value and a bare value. And let's just keep the defaults for these. So just keep herbaceous as 1 and bare as 2. We will want to change our no data values to 0, like we did last time. And let's go ahead and rename this classification. I named it phase 1 herbaceous classification. And since we already have our herbaceous classification layer, I just named it phase 1 herbaceous classification underscore 01. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my cell size is the same as my land cover subset, which is most likely an unnecessary step, but it is a good habit. And let's see what we get out from this.
I must admit, I'm really confused what we're doing right now.
Yeah, we're going to add them all together eventually. We just need to get them into a format that will make sense for us. That will make sense for us so that we can basically mesh these all into one raster. So it's probably not going to make sense until the end of the exercise, honestly.
Okay, just remind me one more time though what classification means again, I guess, because I know what segmentation's doing, but what's classifying doing again?
Are you talking about the reclassify tool or just the classification?
So it seems like we first classify, which is what again?
Right. So
we first segment.
Right. So
the very first thing we do is segment.
Right.
Okay.
And then our classification is just assigning classes to
herbaceous or water or whatever it is. Okay. And then reclassifying is flipping those if we want to.
It's just assigning new classes to existing classes.
Okay.
So,
and then ultimately you're making what's that last step after you've reclassified is
after we reclassify, we're going to use our raster calculator to add all of these rasters together. And the reason that I'm changing the numbers in these classifications is so that I can so that when I add them together, I can actually decipher what the new raster means.
Yeah.
So now I will know after I've done a raster calculation that that canopy will be in the 100th place. water will be in the tens place, and herbaceous and bare will be on the ones place. It'll make, and we will be able to see results after we add all these together as well.
Okay. And zeros are like, if you're looking at your canopy class layer, for example, you know that the hundreds are canopy and the zeros are no data, or they're just not canopy?
The zeros are just not canopy.
Okay.
And when we add these rasters together, that zero layer will help a lot, because then we'll just be able to add those rasters together without changing areas that we won't want to change.
Okay.
And it looks here like this reclassification did not work as expected.
Wait, why does it look like that?
Yeah. What are you seeing?
Right. Ideally, we would have zero values.
Instead of where it says herbaceous and bare.
Data values. So we might need to run this again and see what's going on here. Oh, I see. Okay. So if it came out like this for you, this might have actually been an update to ArcGIS Pro.
Oh.
I'm going to go ahead and symbolize by value instead of class name. So it automatically gave me class name, and
Got it.
it did not display the zero values. So now we actually
have 3 values.
Yeah, and we have 3 rasters. So now we can actually go ahead and run a raster calculation to combine all of these together. And it should make more sense once we've finished this step. So in your geoprocessing window, go ahead and search for raster calculator. Should be an
Spatial analyst
tool. Yes, a spatial analyst tool. Thank you. And now we need to remember exactly which values we want to add together, since we have so many layers. So we want to add our phase 1 herbaceous classification to our phase 1 water classification to our phase 1 canopy classification. And in order to do that, let's look and find those on our raster calculator window. So since we just made these layers, they should just be the top 3 layers in your raster list in raster calculator. So let's go ahead and double click on our herbaceous classification just to add it in. And then we want to use our plus key to add a plus sign. And then we'll just do the same for phase 1 water classification and phase 1 canopy class. So your raster calculator should read phase 1 herbaceous classification plus phase 1 water classification plus phase 1 canopy class layer. And let's go ahead and name this the same as what we named it in the instructional guide. So at this point in the instructional guide, I named this output phase 1 classification layers added. Okay, and let's check and make sure that these are all the right names again. But other than that, we don't really need to change any environments because they're all in the same, grid. Although that's true in the instructional guide, but since we have different extents here for our rasters, let's just go ahead to the environments tab and change the processing extent to, let's change it to phase 1 herbaceous classification, because we know that's actually the correct extent, or that's in the smaller extent. Then let's go ahead and hit run. Okay. Is everyone seeing sort of this this more complicated raster layer on their screens?
Not yet for me, but
Okay.
There we go.
wait, it just popped in.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Good. I'm glad that worked. It's a very finicky process, and if you change up ones for zeros or anything like that, you might have to go back and find the step where you made a slight error. So it looks like we're in the clear though, which is awesome.
Wyatt, you have so that peach color on yours,
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Oh.
My colors are different.
It's not just that I don't have the peach color, I don't have those.
You don't have those areas?
Because I think you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, 1, 2, 3, and I only have 4. For some reason, you have an extra color that I don't have.
I think I might know the reason. I made a couple of edits to the water classification layer
Got it.
last night when we were just after we made that water classification.
Yep.
And I thought I'd updated that to the box drive. Apparently not.
I have all 5.
Odd.
Huh.
Did you, do you know how there was 2 layers called herbaceous classification? There was 01 and not 01. Did you use the right one?
Maybe you used the local file that you generated on your computer for like your old water classification.
I probably did.
Okay, that would be why then.
Okay.
I just made a couple edits because I thought like connecting those channels might be a little bit.
Yeah, great.
More
Thank you.
So, okay, good. I'm glad that worked out. So now we basically have a classification. We can see that we have a class for water. We can see that we have a class for apparent bare ground. We have a canopy class, and we have an herbaceous and small shrub class. And
I have a question. How do we know what class 1 is and what class 2 is?
And this is actually where the raster calculator stuff becomes super important. So let's go ahead and look at the symbology in our table of contents for our herbaceous classes and our water class. So let's go ahead and start with class number 1. We know that class number 1 is bare ground.
How do we know that?
In our herbaceous classification, we have class 0, class 1, and class 2.
Yeah.
And if we look back at our herbaceous classification here, what am I displaying?
The 0 is the water and the canopy, and the 1 is the visible herbaceous, and the 2 is the
bare ground.
bare ground.
I don't know why this Herbaceous classification is that? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
If we look at our old herbaceous classification, and we use the inspect tool on areas that we know are bare ground, it's just going to tell us bare. That's okay, here we go. So let's look at our new herbaceous classification.
What
For
tool
bare-
are you using right now to do that?
I'm using the explore tool. It's a little bit different than the inspect tool. The explore tool is your panning tool and your inspect tool. It has a few more functions.
Oh,
And so if you inspect your herbaceous classification, value 2 is going to be bare, because that's what we assigned it in our reclassification step.
oh,
Value 1 is going to be herbaceous, and that's just because that's what we assigned as the herbaceous value in that classification. And then 0 is just going to be everywhere that was not included in the herbaceous classification.
okay.
So then
So
we know that our 1 is going to be we know that our 1 is going to be herbaceous and our 2 is going to be bare ground in our final. And then you can find out the same information for your water classification. So
Is there a way to just symbolize like herbaceous classification to tell you what 1 and 2 are?
yeah, let's do that now. We can go into the attribute table of our raster. If we open this up, we can assign names. So if you open your attribute table, and if you go to your add field button, you can go ahead and add a, let's just call it class, and make sure the data type is text. Let's go ahead and save our changes.
Wait, sorry, I'm not getting there as quick as you.
Oh, you're fine. Sorry.
Okay.
Just let me know if I'm going too fast.
So class for field name, text for data type.
Yes.
Okay.
That should be everything you need to change.
We don't need to say, okay.
You can save too.
And where do you save
Exit
this
out of
one?
this. So exit.
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed where you saved it.
Oh, okay. Up in the Fields tab, under Changes. That's where you're saving will be.
Got it. And if you try to exit without saving it, it'll ask you
It'll
if
give
you
you an
want
option.
to save all your changes.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
That works too.
So it's interesting, like you're always in edit mode in Arc Pro.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of dangerous. Like
it is, but you can also you can also have the option in your let me see, where am I in my table of contents here? It will always give you the option to save your edits or discard them. So
yeah,
if you haven't saved your edits and like you make a mistake, it will just give you the option when you save your project or close your project. It'll be like, hey, do you want to keep these changes? Do you want to discard the changes?
Yeah,
But
one of the things that
less-
makes me nervous about being in edit mode all the time too is like when you're in Citrix and you're in edit mode, if it crashes, bad news, corrupts your whole project and your geodatabase and stuff. Is that true of Pro?
Maybe. I don't go on Citrix ever, so I don't know. Usually when my Arc Pro crashes, it's able to save a decent backup. I might lose some things, but it doesn't get corrupted like that.
I'm guessing they're going to move Pro to Citrix at some point here.
possible.
Yeah, this is a Forest Service thing.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause all our data is in Citrix. And so, you know,
Got
otherwise
it.
you have to copy the LiDAR to your hard drive and all those things, which are gigantic.
Right. Yeah,
that I
no, I
don't-
hear you, Cari.
It's also possible that like as soon as you save your edits, it will pop you out of edit mode automatically.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure how that works, but I just try to save them as much as possible and keep everything as the latest version, and it doesn't corrupt my files if
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, so and now we have a class field, and like you said, we're in edit mode always, so we can just double click into this class field, and we'll need to remind ourselves which class is which, but we can, from our inspection, we know that class number 1, or we know that value number 1 corresponds to herbaceous class.
Oh, wait, darn it. I guess I did all of this on our herbaceous classification. I should have been doing this on our
Yes.
classifications add layers. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be on the full combined classification.
Okay, so mine are different than yours because I don't have that other. My values are 0, 1, 2, and 20, but so my 1 is actually still herbaceous.
Okay.
My 0 is actually my
Different.
canopy, it looks like. My 0 is year 100. I don't know how that happened. It's probably because of that water layer that we talked about.
Yes. That should have worked itself out in the reclassification step, but as long as you still have all the classes, do you still have, I mean, I will have one more class than you.
Right, so I have 4 classes, and my 0 class is the same as your 100 class, which is pretty clearly canopy.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that you have different classes, but I probably wouldn't worry about it unless you are actually missing a class or missing some area in your map.
Right, which I don't think I am.
Okay.
So 2.
So your classes are going to be totally different, but I usually just go ahead and use my inspect tool
To see.
to just see exactly what my areas are, because generally I can sort of recognize like, okay, that's canopy area. So my 100, I'll reclassify my 100 as canopy or tree shrub. I'll go ahead and reclassify my 2 class to there.
Oh, okay, so there it is. So 1 is herbaceous, you said.
Yeah, the object ID and the value are confusing.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So my class 0, what are you calling your canopy? Tree shrub?
Yeah. So I have herbaceous, bare, tree shrub, and so it looks like my water is classified as 10. And I have an extra class, which is 110. So that's tree shrub plus water. So and that's why you don't have that class.
Got it.
So I'll just call this tree shrub / water.
Okay.
Right, because I made those edits in that canopy area.
Right.
It's just going to be different. And let's just go ahead and go into our edit.
we have to hit save there.
Yes.
In edit.
This is how you save your actual edits. It will give you an when you close your project, but it's always better to just do it now.
Wyatt,
So
for the tree, shrub, water class, is there a step in the instructional guide to create that additional class?
I believe so.
I just didn't look again.
I think I was a little bit more vague in the instructional guide. From what I can see here, it looks like I'm just telling you to do an inspection on each of your areas and find the best corresponding class.
But you created an entire additional class for the tree, shrub, water.
Right. In the instructional guide for the inundation, if we'd actually ended up finishing the process, we would have created an edited version, and that would have automatically happened. Our inundation classification would have intersected with trees and shrubs. And and that I didn't specifically say that overlap should be classified a certain way, but I did say to inspect the map and classify what you see. So that, I could change that if you'd like, but if you just gone through like the whole thing,
if you went,
gone through the whole thing, you'd probably be like, oh hey, like this is an intersection between canopy and water, and I'll just give it its own label.
And where do you do that? Where do you give it its own label?
Oh, just in the attribute table.
Okay.
So when we assign our class field,
right,
in our attribute table.
Okay, I think I'm still not totally clear on how you got those, because you didn't run a new classification. Those were just the sections that you connected manually?
Right. And I connected those sections manually, and then I converted the polygon to a raster.
Okay. So I'm probably just confused because we didn't do that.
I think so.
Okay.
We can, if you have that saved, we can actually go through that last step. I think that we're at the end of our classification of land cover. We could, of course, go through the symbology steps and sort of like other cleanup steps, but this is sort of the meat of it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's your, but basically that is your land cover classification, just unsymbolized and messy.
You know, what might be useful, Wyatt, is to show us how to get the acres in each of those classifications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
And actually that would be an awesome thing to include in the guides, which I'm glad you mentioned that, Cari, because I hadn't even thought of it until right now, but calculating areas.
Sure.
It's going to be really
that's
useful.
the main thing we want to do with the data.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So that will be in the attribute table again. So let's go into our classification, our final classification table, and we can go ahead and add an acres field. Yeah.
Or just area, acres.
Yeah, sure.
Acres, and we got to make it like float or something.
Yeah, let's make it into a float field. So I called mine area acres and as a float data type. I'll go ahead and save that and close
Why
my
is it
table.
why is it a float?
Because it has decimals, right?
Yeah, so you have your long data type, your short data type, your float data type, and
Got it. Okay.
your float is the first value that actually gives you decimal numbers, and your double will give you like a lot more information than your float data type will, but it will probably give you more information than you really are even looking for. It will give you a much longer tail of decimal numbers. So now if we select our new area acres field, we can go ahead and use our calculate field button on that field. And now I actually need to do a little bit of math here. First, we're going to
It should just, you know how like you can it should calculate acres automatically.
if it's a shape
Like,
file.
Do what?
If it's a shapefile.
In a feature class, it doesn't?
We're in a raster file, so it will.
Oh.
That might actually be easier though. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
So we could either do this one of two ways. We could look at the pixel value and multiply the squared pixel value by, I believe these pixel, by the number of feet per pixel, and then by the number of acres per feet. Or we could just convert it into a shapefile and run the calculate geometry tool.
Okay.
So let's just go ahead and convert to a shapefile. That sounds like a great option. And that way,
Will you include this in the guide?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So right now we're a raster and we're gonna put it in, make it a shapefile, so it'll make these all polygons.
Right.
Okay.
And to do that, we just need to go back to our geoprocessing tools. Go to raster to polygon. Use our classification as our input raster.
So this is the conversion tool.
Yes. And
What for your input? You said we're doing the
phase 1 classification
Layers added.
Okay.
Yep.
And as field, go ahead and put class. And we can go ahead and name this output land cover polygons. Let's uncheck the simplify polygons box. And let's go ahead and run it. And now we can go into the attribute table of this polygon. And you will have a lot of rows because these are all, there are a bunch of separate polygons here. We will need to use the add field button to create a new area acres field because that didn't carry over from the raster file. We can go ahead and set it as a float file. And now we can just right click on the top of the area acres column, like you were saying, Cari, and select the calculate geometry button. Under property, we can just select area and under area unit, we can select acres.
Wait, sorry, a little confused for your target field.
The target field should be area acres.
Okay, I guess I just named mine acres. Okay, and then
That's fine too.
I don't see an area unit.
It's under property, so
Oh,
you need to specify the property before you can specify the area unit.
Where did you get calculate geometry?
I went to my area field in my table of contents, and I right-clicked and found the calculate geometry row in my options.
I've done something wrong because I'm not getting that option.
Is it grayed out?
There, I have copy, column and row.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a different? Do you still have this field, the area acres field?
I do.
Table?
Yep.
Oh, have you right-clicked in one of the cells?
Yeah, and that's what it looks like. Oh,
You might
got it. Thank you. Calculate geometry. I'm there. Land cover polygons.
hey guys, I'm gonna pause for a moment because my kid is injured at camp, and I'm just gonna put you on mute for a second and deal with that.
Okay. Sorry, Cari. Okay, my screen looks like your screen, Wyatt.
Okay, great. So let's just set area as our property and acres as our area unit. And then we can just run.
And so you don't need to do anything with your coordinate system.
It will automatically set your coordinate system. All of these layers are in the same coordinate system, and the map is automatically updated to that coordinate system.
Okay.
It will use the coordinate system of your layer, but if you want to be extra careful about that, you can set the coordinate system. So I can show you that as well. It's very intuitive here because you can just select the coordinate system of your current layer.
Your layer. Okay.
So, and then it will tell me, okay, it's a NAT 83 state plane, Oregon South.
And that's the coordinate system that Matt assigned to the imagery, correct?
Yeah, I put everything into that coordinate system.
That's great. And so now we get area acres by each individual polygon.
Right.
And can we sum them?
Yeah, so if you go into, you can either export this as a table and do a summary column that way, or do a summary row that way, or you can run.
You mean export it like to an Excel file?
Yeah, you can do that. That's what I did.
Okay.
There's a few different ways to go about it. Let's see here. That's not what I wanted. You can also right-click and go into statistics. And let me see if this will give you any sort of useful information.
I can export it too. That's fine.
Okay, that might be the best option for you.
Yep.
Also, if you would like a shapefile that is a little bit less, just a million rows,
Mm-hmm.
you can run a raster to polygon and check create multi-part features. Since I already have this tool open, I'll just call this land cover polygons multi-part. I'll go ahead and run that tool again. And if I open the attribute table, it will just give me 4 or 5 rows.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's
Okay.
another way to do it. I might as well add that to the instructional guide as well. That's a good note to add, at least.
Thank you. Oh, mine didn't work. Oh, probably because I didn't. What did I not do? Oh, I didn't select create multi-part features. So now if I just hit run, it'll just run it again.
Yeah, it will.
And then it'll fix that. Okay,
Great.
great.
So I think that's it for land cover. Unless you have any other things that you would like to clarify, but I think that's about the extent of it.
No, that's great. And I wouldn't mind going back to yesterday's map and exercise and finishing that because I'm still
Yeah, let's do that.
a little confused. Do you mind if I take a quick break?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm going to save this map and I guess I'm going to close this map, right? Because we're done with it.
Can you guys hear me? I can't hear you guys
Yeah,
yet. Hold
I can
on, I
hear
gotta get my speaker working. Still not hearing you guys.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, Cari.
Huh, okay, still not hearing you. Let me try something.
Here, I'm just going to chat and tell her that we can hear her. Okay, so we were opening yesterday's map, which is now called a project file in Pro.
Yeah, it's an APRX. It's just a different way that the data is structured. I think that the map files in ArcGIS had issues where if you moved them to a slightly different location, they would lose the connection with their geodatabase, and
Yes.
that's a little bit less of a problem.
Really? That's exciting.
Well, you have this big folder that says inundation metrics exercise that has the geodatabase, the APRX, all that stuff. So it is easier to transport stuff.
Okay. Now I do need to get the guide.
Sure. Yes, I'll pull up the guide as well.
Cari, can you hear us?
Right. Chat Cari and see if she's still.
Yeah, seems
around.
Seems like she maybe can't hear us.
Hey guys, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
hear
I'm
us?
back. Yeah, I'm back. What'd I miss?
Is your kid okay? Nothing. We took a break. Oh, we're going back to the exercise from yesterday that we didn't finish.
Oh, okay. So should I save this map and close it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One quick thing on mine. I was in acres and then I went to property and I hit area, and then for area unit, I need to hit acres, I assume.
Yeah.
And I probably don't need to worry about the coordinate system, and then just hit okay.
Yeah, that's right. And you did go over quickly how to sort of consolidate that info into a little bit of a more organized table. Me and Lauren went through how to export the raster so that it just comes loaded with 4 rows instead of hundreds.
Okay. Will that be in the instructional guide?
I will put that in the instructional guide.
Okay,
But it's really
then
straightforward, Cari. There's just a box that you select that says create multi-part features or something like that.
when you hit export.
Right.
Before you run the tool.
When you hit raster to polygon, inside the
Oh.
polygon tool, there's a create multi-part features option.
Now, the disadvantage of that then is you can't click on each polygon to see its size, which we may want to do for whatever reason, right?
So you could just do both.
Yeah, okay,
Create
that makes
both,
sense.
And then you could use the multi-part for your big summary, but then if you, I don't know.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. All right, so I'm gonna hit save on my whole project and exit out then. All right. And then open up our inundation one from yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Navigate to where you saved that on your drive.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I think I asked.
And you should still see all of these layers loaded in that map. Just let me know when you've gotten there.
I don't have, oh, interestingly, so I don't have phase 1 water example. Do you think you added that back in to edit it last night?
No, I just edited the polygon. It should be in your geodatabase.
This is weird. Okay, so I'm gonna add data.
Strange hiccup.
So
there's also a great catalog feature in Arc Pro that it might be good to get an introduction to. So in your catalog window, on the right, like next to geoprocessing, you have a folders folder. If you right click on folders, you can go to add folder connection and basically navigate to a folder in your, like on your hard drive or in one of your databases, and just keep that for reference. But also it's really easy to get into your geodatabase because you just have a databases folder. It will list your default geodatabase, and you can expand your geodatabase to find all of your raster files and shape files that you created.
Oh, sorry guys, they're calling me again. Milo's got his head hit, and so we're trying to figure out what to do there. Well, I'm gonna mute again.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Y'all keep going though.
Well, when I go to tech, to what I named my folder from yesterday, so I can add.
Another thing is that you don't necessarily need it for the rest of the exercise. So if it's not there for some reason, then we'll be making another one.
Perfect. Great.
As long as you have your inundation polygons.
I do.
You'll be all set. Okay. Good deal. So I think
guys, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to head out and go pick him up. He's not.
Oh,
he's
shoot.
Not doing okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Cari.
Well, I know. Well, thank you, Wyatt, for all of your time explaining this. And Lauren, she's the whiz anyway. She'll get it.
Thanks, Cari. Thanks for the vote of confidence.
At least, I mean, I do feel way more savvy in Art Pro now. And so between the two of us, we can probably get through it, and having your technical guide, of course, your instructional guide.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Okay, so we don't have any meetings tomorrow, and we'll be getting then later on, we'll get this thing to review. And then later on in September, we'll have a closeout, and that's all we have at this point.
I sent an email today that has some like odds and ends that I'm thinking about. And so we may end up scheduling something to talk about some of those, Cari.
Okay.
If you are available, you know, if we can figure it out for you to be there for them. Some of them are just things. One of them is just getting costs, if possible, from the GTAC team for the geotask project. Mm-hmm. So that wouldn't necessarily, you know, I think more than anything, that's just something for me to discuss with Abby and Julie and Wyatt to see if that's something that's possible. And then just some like file
with that side. So you would have to ask someone. Probably have to ask Abby or Julie. Someone
that one
has a little bit more experience.
Cost stuff we could just go through Abby and me as it has for the other stuff.
Yeah.
Cari, one thing I was thinking about, you know, GTAC still has like a help desk, like pot of money set aside. So we're definitely not expecting that you guys are going to be like sent off into the sunset with the guide and like we'll never have questions again. So
good.
Yeah. So like if somebody does end up going through this and has follow-up questions, there's an avenue to address those.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful, Julie. And will that information be in the instructional guide too? Like support is available at this number or something?
It's probably just going to be like a, you know, like, I don't know why, I don't know how much help desk stuff you do, but like the formal way is that you like contact the help desk and they submit like a GIS ticket and it's kind of that process. But I feel like most of the time we just say like contact this person, you know, like contact Wyatt or whatever. And then behind the scenes, like after the fact, he'll just like create a ticket, like post resolution and bill time accordingly. And yeah, Wyatt, I'm not sure if you're involved in that, but I know that we've done that for
involved in help desk.
Yeah.
That could change. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
so
just
for
mean
now,
that, yeah.
Julie, should I so if we start working through this and I have a question, should I contact Wyatt directly or should I go through you or?
I mean, let's see how it goes. I think Brenna Schwert is I think she's still our help desk point of contact at Red Castle. And if you guys like for, yeah, those one-offs or whatever, yeah, I think you can contact Wyatt, and then Wyatt, if you have questions about
Yeah, I mean, I'm
how
always
to,
answer questions. That's fine by me. I just I realized that we also, yeah, we have that help desk ticket to bill time. I'm not sure where the line is between just like, like answering a quick question and actually billing a help desk ticket and how to do that. But
yeah, fair
it's-
enough. I think maybe we can just play that a little bit by ear, like, feel free to reach out with questions, and then we can work with Brenna or whoever the help desk POC is to figure out what makes most sense.
Huh? Yeah, and my last quick question is about have we received, and sorry, I don't know where this is, but have we received all the files for all the different project areas?
So that's actually one thing I was talking to Lauren about. I know that I put deliverables in a deliverables folder, but you said you couldn't access them. So I might
I did or Cari did?
to another format. Oh, no, I was talking with you about access to those files. And you said
Yes.
open those files,
Well,
but I deliverables folder. So
the
maybe
first time I tried to download them, they didn't download this. And then I think you re-uploaded them and I re-downloaded them and that worked. And then they were LPKX files, which I wasn't using Pro yet. And I actually have not figured out how to extract those yet. So one of the things I said in my email this morning that no one's had a chance to look at because we've been here is that I would like to get those from you as, I guess it would be shape files and TIFF files, which are compatible with desktop. I imagine that I will continue using Pro, but I know that, for example, our restoration program manager hasn't started doing that yet. I don't know, Cari, what your plan is with Pro versus desktop.
Yeah,
So-
I will be using Citrix, so I'll be using ArcMap.
okay, well that's easy enough to do. I'll just convert those files.
Right, you just lose the symbology.
Right. So I'll go ahead and put them in the deliverables folder when I have.
But so, Cari, there was an email from Wyatt, and it was probably 2 months ago now, that has those locations, and one of them is a Forest Service facing Dropbox, and box folder, and one of them is one that I can access.
Okay.
So I can
Yeah,
forward you that email from Wyatt.
Perfect. I'm trying to dig around, and I'm sure I have it. It's just that I'm super backed up and everything right now.
No worries.
Because of vacation and then the project.
Over, I'll just send another link and let you know.
You're breaking up, Wyatt.
I am.
Yeah,
Okay.
your mic is sort of like, if your head's turned at all, it doesn't pick you up. I'm forwarding that same email that you sent.
And so right now it sounds like the files that are in that box location are only for Pro. And Wyatt, you're going to put some in there that will then also work on an ArcMap. Is that what I'm hearing?
I will.
And will you also make layer files so that they keep their symbology?
We made layer files, and that was the issue that Lauren was having. So she opened those layer files in ArcMap.
Well, I think it was because of the kind of, I don't think
Those are layer files. That's what I uploaded to Box.
Yeah, so
file?
Cari, it might be that
The LPX
when
file.
Wyatt creates those layer files in Pro, they are Pro layer files, and you can only open them in Pro, I believe.
Okay.
Whereas
So
if he saves them as shape files, then you can open them in desktop. And
Interested to see some kind of corruption that happens when I transfer them to that location. I'm going to try to open those files in ArcGIS desktop and see if I can do it. And if I can open them on desktop, then maybe it's something about how they're being transferred. and then we might need to figure out a different way. So
Yeah, and
Okay, that'd be great.
I'll try to do that. I'll do that later today, and let you guys know how that goes. And based on that, we will then we can talk more about just what type of file will work best.
Okay, I'm gonna boogie because I gotta get a kiddo. But thank you, everybody. And like I said, I'm kind of behind on all the emails. So if there's something urgent, it's probably best to text me on my work cell right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Cari.
Cari. Good luck with the kiddo.
Thank you.
She doesn't sound even a little bit worried.
I know
She's just like, this is just how it goes.
what happened.
This is just what happens.
Yeah, that I mean, I remember that.
What's that?
I remember that phase in my own life, and I've got a nephew right now who's 3, who's just doing what they do, just falling over a lot.
Totally.
But so yeah, we can. I didn't think of that, and since Cari was asking for layer files and uses ArcMap, maybe that's not the issue. So hopefully it's not the issue, but we can figure that out, and I'll let you know what I find out in my own ArcGIS desktop. And yeah, but let's spend what time we have going through some edits to the water classification.
That sounds great.
So here, all you really need is your inundation polygon layer and your ortho imagery.
Okay, good to go there.
Okay, great. So, and let me know if I break up. I'm doing this on my larger screen, so often my head is sort of turned away. I can also do it on my laptop screen, which might require a little bit of finagling.
No, you're good. I'll let you know if I can't hear you.
Okay, good. So the first thing that we want to do here is just get our select tool out, and my polygon will be a little bit different from yours right now because yours is unedited. But go ahead and use your select tool to click around in areas that are not water. And that's just a reminder that you still have some invisible polygons. They'll turn blue when you hit them, but you still do have land polygons that are not visible. And so we're going to have to deal with that eventually, because we'll be expanding our water area with our edits. And since we'll be expanding our water area, we will have a water area and land area that don't match.
Yep.
So the first thing we want to do is just simplify that a little bit. And forgive me for not following the guide super precisely, but we're going to go ahead and export an inundation polygon that is just water samples.
Okay.
Or that's just water classification. So let's go ahead and right click on our inundation polygons in our attribute table. We'll go ahead and go down to data. Under data, we can find the button that lets us export features. Under export features, it should fill in most of these defaults for us. It automatically puts this in our geodatabase. And let's name the output water polygons, or sure, water class polygons. And we
Okay.
have an expression box.
Yep.
Under expression, and we just want to change this expression to the following. So we'll say where
Hold on. Mine says expression, but it doesn't, and then it says there's no expression defined. Did you select new expression?
A blank box. I'll remove this expression real quick.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Okay. So is your screen, does your export features box look like this right now?
Yeah, and then I did select new expression.
Okay.
Okay, I'm there.
And then you want to select this clause. So where grid code is equal to 0.
Okay.
And we're doing that because grid code is the value that was exported from the raster. That's just the default name for your raster classes. And
Okay.
I can just go ahead and see in my symbology tab under inundation polygon that my polygon symbolized as water are labeled with a grid code of 0. So,
Okay.
and then we can go ahead and hit OK. Export this class. And right click on our inundation polygon. We can just go ahead and remove that. And now we have a new polygon, which is just water. And you can check that by going to.
Wyatt, I did something bad.
Oh no. Oh no. What is it?
Well, okay, so I just removed so I had this remember when we finished yesterday, we were in the middle of editing. We were manually editing. So I had this one tiny little polygon that was still turquoise today, and I was like, I'm not gonna worry about it, but
that's the only thing that's on your map.
That's the only thing that's left.
Oh no.
So I need to re-add my
Yeah.
I need to re-add my inundation. It's funny that I was like, oh, no big deal. I'm just not gonna worry about that thing. Okay,
That's
so
such a common, I feel like I have done that all the time, where like I accidentally have something selected and then you export the data and then it's just that. And you're like, what? Why?
Okay, so I just re-added my inundation polygon, but now it is, it's pink with black lines. It does not look like.
Probably changed automatically. You must have lost your symbology.
And it has my little polygon that was all that was left.
That you should be able to work with that.
Okay.
As long as you don't have it selected anymore.
It doesn't look selected.
You have remember in your selection section of your map tab.
Uh-huh.
That says clear selection.
Yeah, it's grayed out, so there must be no selection.
Awesome. That's the only thing you need to check for.
Okay, wait. So now I need to go back to, what did we just do? I need to export. I need to go to data. I need to export features. Inundation polygon is my input. My output, you called it water class polygons. My expression is where grid code. So, but mine doesn't have grid code defined. My inundation polygon doesn't have that defined anymore. Because I guess I didn't set my symbology. So I need to reset my symbology.
Oh no. it should have grid code. So it's not anywhere in this list.
Oh, it is in the list. Okay.
Okay.
Where
You should be
grid code
fine.
is equal to 0. And then just okay, right?
Yeah. And that should just export your water polygons.
Okay. That works.
Good, good. So now we can do a lot more editing, a lot more safely. And let's just do a couple of edits where we just find areas that are obviously misclassified. So I'm going to zoom into this bottom area, and we have this whole channel. We have this whole chunk of channel that was just classified as land. It could be more shallow or more sandy. There are a few shadows in there, and we didn't take too many samples. So any of those reasons could have led to a misclassification. So in order to fix this, we'll go to edit in our top ribbon.
I'm trying to figure out where you are. Okay, I think I see where you are. Okay.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
And under edit, there's a create button and a modify button next to your select button. I'm going to select my create button. And it should pop up in your right window, the create features tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's preserved both classes for some reason, but I'm not really worried. Yours probably done the same thing. Oh, okay.
No, because mine's a little bit different now, but that's okay.
That's fine. We're still going to do the same thing. So go ahead and select the only polygon that's available to you. I am selecting polygon with grid code 0. And
okay.
You'll get crosshairs that pops up. And I'm just going to do this relatively quickly, but we can snap this crosshairs to your water polygons, sort of on the vertices. And so I'm going to go ahead and left click to snap. And then I'm just going to sort of create a rather quick and dirty edit here of this, just clicking every time I want a vertice. And I've included a little bit of land in here, but I'll just click over to the other side of the polygon, snap it to the other side, and then make sure that my new polygon overlaps completely with the old polygon.
How are you making sure?
I'm just giving plenty of room sort of between the edges of both polygons. So
got it. So if I need to move a vertice, how do I do that? Oop. Hold on.
A little bit of a pain to move a vertice.
Okay, so you just make sure in the first place that it is.
It's a lot easier to make sure that you get it right the first time. We can edit as well. So let's go to our modify button, modify features. And there should be a button here under reshape, edit vertices.
Okay.
And then your vertices will, of your selected polygon will pop up.
Yeah, okay. I've done this.
Okay, good deal. I'm going to exit out because I'm relatively happy with the way this looks.
Okay. I did not do a very good job with that.
That's fine. It's not important here.
Okay.
We're just
So where did you go? Where did you go after that?
So I didn't actually go anywhere after that. I just saved.
Okay.
Just saved my edits. And there are a couple ways to do this, but I'll show you the way that I merge this into the rest of my rivers data set. I went back to modify features.
Okay.
So the modify features menu, I went to merge under construct and clicked the select new 2 or more features button. And I'm going to select my new polygon, hold the control key.
Where is merge?
It should be near the bottom of your menu. It's right under construct and it's on top of buffer.
Alignment. Got it.
Okay, awesome.
And then you selected that by rectangle?
Yeah. Select by rectangle is fine. Also, when you get into the merge tool, you can just hit the select 2 or more features button, and that way you're using tool to select. It doesn't really matter which one you use. So I'll select my new polygon. I'll hold my control key and then just wait. No, I'll select my new polygon, hold shift, and select my old polygon.
Okay, got it.
And then in the absolute bottom right corner, you can just hit merge and they will merge together. And you can also notice here that there are a few overlapping water polygons, which is odd, but you can also just click and drag a rectangle around all of these overlapping polygons and just merge again. They should just merge into the larger water polygon. And really just a rinse and repeat until you're satisfied with how many channels you've sort of fixed. So I'll go ahead and just fix one more channel. So here's a misclassified area. I'll go just back to my create features, do a quick create features tool, and then just try to estimate as best I can where this channel falls in the imagery.
Okay.
Go back to my select tool and just shift select polygons on either side of this new feature. Go back to my modify features, merge, and just merge that in as well. And really it's up to you how much manual editing you can do. It can get out of hand really fast. You can keep on finding small things that you can edit, and it really depends how much time you want to put in. But it's useful to remember like how much generalization you want to have in your map, because if you do like hours and hours of hand delineation, then you might as well just skip the classification step.
Right.
So the classification step is really just a
right. You try to get as much of it as you can in the classification.
There is going to be generalization. And
there's going to be what?
There's going to be generalization and there's going to be some error.
Yep.
And you just have to decide how much error you're happy with, how much you want to accept.
Right. Okay, so how did you get from there? So when you were correcting your water class, did you, like, if there was a spot where there's canopy, did you just ran the channel under that? If you were like, well, clearly this channel right here goes under that canopy and then it comes out over here.
Right.
So you would have just created a feature that included that canopy, even though you can see its canopy.
Right. So, and like, and there were also some areas, let me see if I can find a good canopy area. Maybe here would be a good example. I can see that the channel runs under this canopy layer. It looks like it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would connect that channel straight through the canopy layer, and maybe even through this woody debris layer as well. And then it wouldn't affect my inundation classification classes, but it will end up interfering with my land cover classification. It will end up just overlapping automatically with that canopy layer. And so I just tried to be judicious about where I classified water. There were a fair amount of areas where it was very obvious that canopy was overhanging the stream, and there needed to be a water layer there. So a lot of the time, it happens in breaks in the streamline.
Okay.
So canopy would just be hanging right over the stream, and there were two ends of the stream that were clearly like thick stream ends that were supposed to be connected that I just connected manually, and that resulted in that new class.
Right.
And the other nice thing, I actually don't see any commission here. We already got rid of most of it, but I'll go ahead and just like pretend this is an error of commission. It looks like it's not.
I know.
Looks like it's at least moist ground. But if it was, we could just select it and then delete it like so. Another thing to watch out for is you will get little segments still. And sometimes it's helpful, like in order to get rid of these little tiny segments, I mean, with on land, you can just say, okay, let me just drag over. That's easy enough. There might still be little tiny segments inside your water body. So since it's all one stream, it might be useful just to select everything and merge the whole feature. And that way you have just one row in your attribute table.
Got it.
With one water area metric.
Okay, and then you just have to clear your selection.
Right. And then you clear your selection, save your edits, and then you're good to go. You will need to translate this back to a raster if you want to use it to burn into your land cover classification.
Okay, how do you?
Like we did.
That's probably in the guide.
It is, but if we just go into geoprocessing, we can type in polygon to raster and just run it on our water classification.
Okay. What's the object field grid code? Sorry, the value field.
Value field should be grid code. I'll just leave it as water class polygons, polygon to raster, just because it's just an example. You do want to make sure you go into environments. This is probably the most important part, and make sure that cell size matches your ortho imagery.
Composite. Yep.
Yeah, or your original ortho imagery, since they're the same resolution. Just want it to match that original ortho photo.
Okay.
And then you can just run it and it will convert to a raster.
Okay, and then this raster that we're now creating is what we would have used today.
Right.
Yep.
And then you transfer this over to your land cover. And it looks like this is a raster of all zeros. So you'd need to do that reclassification step like we did in the land cover classification.
Okay.
Depending on what values you set your raster grid code to, you'll need to modify what you do. You need to keep very careful track of where exactly what values you set to your rasters and your polygons, because that will have an effect down the road, and you'll just need to use the reclassify tool more in order to finagle all of the data into a like structure that makes sense to combine.
Right. So I would want to go back. Is this in this exercise or is this in that third exercise? The reclassify.
Third exercise.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just bring this layer into exercise number 3, and then just do exactly what we did earlier this morning.
Okay.
And, it would produce the same result or a similar result. So that's the land cover and inundation classification. And I realize we haven't gone over the hand delineation of large woody debris, although I think that might be okay. We've sort of gone over the create features tool. I used the create features tool to create the wood classification. And for the sediment size, I realized that we might be looking for another method. I'll actually be doing a little bit of experimentation with maybe using another method.
For the South Fork?
So, well, of course, I mean, I'll be doing that for more TAC members. So, of course, you guys will stay informed of how that goes and whether it works. And I think for the elevation band classification, I was talking to Brenna earlier, and I can either just provide the instructional guides and sort of field questions when you have them. Maybe that would be a a help desk.
Yeah.
And we could also potentially set aside more time. Whatever works for you all, I think we can figure out.
Yeah, so the sample data sets, like having all of the data that we needed for a given exercise was really useful. And I can't remember if did we get that data for 2A and 2B? Like the sample or like data for those exercises? Was that included in the folder for today?
Yeah, so you have sample data for 2B.
For 2B.
You don't have sample data for all the reaches, but you have enough sample data to complete all the exercises.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Sorry. I thought you were talking about phase 1.
Yeah, I know, it's all so confusing.
Um,
So for
but yes,
exercise
you
2A and
have the right.
exercise 2B. Okay,
So, yeah, maybe whenever you have a chance, try working through those exercises.
Yep.
See if that works for you. I'm
yep,
available for
Okay.
questions.
yep,
We can figure out the best way to make that work.
yep, that sounds good.
But thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
All right,
see you,
bye, Julie.
Julie. And then when you actually did these analyses, I put this in the chat earlier, did you just do, so you would do the entire process for any given metric for each reach at a time?
Right. And
Because,
it would get faster as I went.
Okay.
After I ironed out the details of how to do everything.
yep.
It would
Okay,
just, it would get faster for each reach.
yep. Okay, so I think since we have the data for exercises 2A and 2B, I will plan to try to work through those on my own. And I'll
Okay.
try to do it in a timely manner since you are working on finalizing instructional guides and the report. So that if I have questions or, there are any things that come up as they did over the last 2 days that would help to add to the instructional guides,
Yeah, that would be great.
that those
Yeah.
can be incorporated.
To me.
And then we'll just deal with the other loose ends at some point. It would be super helpful for me. And I know that everybody's organization deals with file storage differently, but it would be really helpful at some point just to, if it's a half-hour conversation or an hour, just to go through sort of like how you organize your files, your file management.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of best practices for those. And maybe that, at some point, maybe we stop billing the geotask project and we start billing the help desk.
So we're billing tech transfer right now. And
We're billing help desk for right now.
tech transfer.
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Billing tech transfer right now. So that's
Okay. Yeah.
We can figure that out as well.
Okay.
That might be a conversation with Brenna and Abby. But yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, just send me an email whenever or send us an email, and we can try to figure out when to work that out.
Okay.
And I will plan on making those edits to the instructional guides and also giving you those files, or at least sort of investigating whether or not I can open them.
Okay.
I'll email you with more details, and hopefully later this week, maybe next week.
Yeah, there's not much left to this week, Wyatt.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And we'll be in touch.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Have a great rest of your day and a good weekend if we're not in touch.
You
Okay.
too.
Bye.